Welcome in again, everybody, to Coach's Corner on the Auburn Undercover Podcast with Coach Ellis Johnson. Before we get started, click below, like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Ellis, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty good.
What were your thoughts on the Auburn Tigers over the weekend?
Well, I guess the main take is they threw the ball well. You know, we came out of that first game and they didn't throw much. And we were thinking it's because they didn't need to throw much or they don't trust the throwing game. And I kind of tended to believe it was the first one. But obviously it wasn't as good a competition as the first game. But this was good. I mean, they came in material, really controlled the ball game and didn't have a pick, you know, had good passing stats and everything. So balance. And I know Bowling Green's not a great opponent, but still, you know, when you go out there on a Saturday and you're playing another team and college football to perform that way, that's a positive step. And they got another opponent that they should be doing the same thing this week, and then they hit the stretch, man. And they got a tough stretch coming up. But that was the main thing I took away from it. I think they played good defense. They did some other things really well. They ran the ball great. But the passing game showing up says they got some balance, and getting that kid in the offseason was a good move.
Well, it looked like to me that they, and again, it's early, and I think South Alabama's better than Ball State. But it looks like to me they've got a better quarterback situation than they've had since Freeze has been there.
I agree. And of course, they thought they did. And you want to see it on Saturday so you know, well, we did the right thing. So, there's a lot of positives. And we all know that after the South Alabama game, where they got that stretch, man, they got two road games, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. And then they come home and got a breather against Georgia. And then another home game against the Missouri team that right now is lighting everybody's butt up. He's changed quarterbacks, got a new quarterback again, and Eli ain't missed a step. They're really good on offense. So they need another good win Saturday and some momentum because they're going to need it down this 4-game stretch.
Well, it's going to be, you know, if you go out there and you win Oklahoma, if you get out of these first 5, 4-1, you got to be feeling pretty good on that back stretch.
And that's important, I think, to Auburn because we know the last 2 seasons have been struggling, you know, and as much mentally as anything, beating themselves, penalties, taking sacks at the wrong time, turning the ball over when you almost got a football game won. And those kind of things wear on you mentally. And right now, everything they're doing, to me, is creating confidence and building confidence. And so that's important to a college football team, no doubt about that. So I think there's a lot of positives right now, but they just got to keep building on it.
How do you see the South Alabama game?
Well, I haven't followed South Alabama much. I couldn't tell you a whole lot about them. You just said they're better than Bowling Green. You know, I'll take your word for it. I think they've got a good program down there. This, again, is a program now where you don't come out there and sleepwalk and screw the thing up or just as badly don't get better. You know, this is a week you got to get better as a football team. Whether you're playing South Alabama or South America, you got to get better. And you got to approach the week that way. And if they do it, again, it shows that the football team's kind of changed. You know, they were maybe a lack of confidence and consistency and preparation the last 2 years. And now all of a sudden they look like a football team that has an identity. They're playing better, they're executing better, they're winning football games, and they're not giving them away. And that just needs to continue this week. They need to be physically better, mentally better, execution better. Everything needs to get better this week.
You know, and I'm just looking at the schedule here. I mean, you come out of South Alabama, you got Oklahoma, at A&M, Georgia at home, Missouri at home, and then, you know, you got a tough game at Arkansas. But then you got a 3-game stretch, Kentucky, Vandy, Mercer. You know, all those looking ahead ought to be winnable.
But, you know, Kentucky and Vandy, you know, you better be ready to play those games.
You better be ready to play any game.
It's a tough schedule. It was backloaded for them, and they've taken care of business so far. And hell, Baylor's win over SMU, I had cut away from that game and gone over to a different game. I thought it was over.
I did too.
You know, about like that game the other night with the Bills and the Ravens. I cut the thing off and then look in the news next day and Buffalo had come back and beaten them. But anyhow, I'm getting way off the subject. Baylor is a good football team. They're not a complete football team, but they're a dang good football team. And it was a road win against a Big 12 team with a team that you didn't know what you had. You knew you had some talent, but you didn't know the identity of your football team and could they pull a close win like that. So that win was a big win. And now they got two of them they got to win to have a little momentum going in this stretch. No, there is not a tougher stretch, maybe a tougher overall schedule, but this stretch they're getting ready to hit next week. I mean, those are going to be hard games. And even when they get through those first four, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, Missouri, Arkansas is a hard win on the road.
It is.
They may be self-destructed by then, I don't know. But right now, they're hard out. And they got a dangerous quarterback, and they play a good D, and they run the football, trying to beat Bobby Petrino, who I think is as good as there is in the business as a coordinator. And then Kentucky, they just played Ole Miss really well, and that's kind of their game of the year. They seem to, play well against Kiffin's style or whatever, but they all of a sudden kind of turned the page. They look like they're a good, tough, solid football team. Vanderbilt, I agree. I think the same thing on them. I think that they've gotten to be a tough out. Got the quarterback back, and they're playing good defense. They really whacked Virginia Tech, a team that South Carolina struggled with Virginia Tech. They pulled away at the end on a punt return, but they had a whole lot more trouble with Tech than Vanderbilt did. Vanderbilt wore their butt out. They had well over 200 yards rushing, and just physically beat Virginia Tech on the road. So, it gets easier, I guess, on paper, but that's a 7-game stretch. You got to be ready to play every week, and hopefully they don't lose anybody in that stretch for a week or two, because they're gonna need all the damn bodies they got.
Well, I guess my point was the schedule's still tough, but it's easier than it's been the last 15 years or longer. It's you used to have, when I was growing up, you had Amen Corner. You finished up with Florida, Georgia, Alabama in the last 3 games.
Yeah, that was. I can always remember that when we get about game number 7, and you had some tough games, some good wins, some hard games, et cetera. And you're thinking, when we're going to get a break? And you look up, and you got Georgia and Alabama still to play. Mm-hmm. And they both ranked top 5. So, yeah, it was a harder finish at Auburn back in the old days when the schedule set the way it did. But I still say now, this particular stretch they're coming up on, not this week, but when it starts, they'll be doing really well if they don't lose 1 or 2 in those 5 games, 6 games.
Yeah, I agree. I do think if you get out of that stretch 4-1, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 5-1, 4-2, 5-1, out of Georgia, you set yourself up pretty good. If you come out of there 3-3, it's going to doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the conference a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a big game for Alabama. Wisconsin coming in.
Yeah, because of the way they started, every game's big for them. They played really good last week against an average opponent and got a lot of things straightened out and did what they were supposed to do on that game. They went out and just embarrassed the other team and looked like they should as an Alabama football team. But that's 1 week, 1 game, 1 flash in the pan. And it still doesn't tell you anything about the culture or the identity or have they got this thing straightened out. Because last year they were the same way. They beat Georgia 1 week, and then they can't beat Vandy 2 weeks later. So they've got to, I think you're exactly right. They've got to go up to, they do play away, don't they? At Wisconsin.
They've got Wisconsin at home in Tuscaloosa.
Home? Oh, that'll help. I thought it was a road game, but it's a Big Ten game, and they've had better teams, but they're still a good football team. And if they lay another egg, then they're still in the same old mode. If they go out and play well and have a double-digit win, then they're going to have some momentum. And they needed a game like this right now. The first First week, they played a team they didn't think was going to be very good, came off a bad year. They weren't ready to play, and they got their ears waxed. And then the next week, they play an average or a bad team, and they look like superstars. Well, we still don't know who Alabama is. We know they got a bunch of talent, but we don't know who they are yet, and I don't know that they do. So this is a big game, very important for them. And what they got after that? They get ready to stretch. I think
at Georgia,
Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. I think is overrated, but they're dangerous. I mean, really dangerous for the quarterback. Then you got LSU, Oklahoma, and I mean that they're kind of getting into their stretch too. And it doesn't look as daunting and as one Auburn has, but still, when you play Vandy now, you got to be ready to play. And Missouri, I'm telling you now, I really think Missouri might be a lot better than people think they are.
I think Eli Drinkwitz deserves a lot of credit. I don't think he gets enough credit for the job he's done up there.
Yeah,
that's a hard job.
The thing that's jumping out at me is he's having to switch quarterbacks now. He had a good one for 2 or 3 years in a row, and then he changes quarterbacks, and they're just as good. They're just as explosive. They're just as efficient. They're taking care of the ball. They're scoring points. And the defense sometimes gets overlooked. I think I heard something the other day. They were in the top 5 in the conference in defense last year or two. So they've been playing good, solid defense. They're not dominant, and everybody's not just wowing over them, but they're playing good defense. They're not having to beat people 60 to 59.
Well, let's see. We got this week. We've also got Georgia at Tennessee.
Yeah, I just saw something, just looking at news on my phone, that Tennessee's got 2 starting corners out and have for the last week or two. So that doesn't bode well for them. And they've lost 8 times in a row to Georgia. I knew they'd been getting dominated, but I thought they had a win somewhere in there. But this is going to be tough now. They're at Tennessee, and that'll help. Right. But this would be probably the biggest game for Tennessee since the quarterback thing occurred. You know, they came through it first 2 games really well, and they've played good. But now this is a huge test. Georgia might be the best defense in the conference. I don't think this is as good a Georgia team as we've seen in the past, but you know, this will be a huge game. And they got them in Knoxville, so maybe that'll help them keep it tight. But we're going to find out if Aguilar, you know, can make that step up and beat a quality opponent.
You know, I'm not sure how. I think Georgia's really good. I'm like you. I'm not sure that they're as good as they've been.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not super impressed with quarterback so far,
but their game last week against what was the 1AA opponent? Who was it? I can't remember now.
Austin P, I believe.
Right. Yeah, Austin P. Point spread wasn't that big, but when I looked at the stats, it was pretty physical beating. And it's their defense; they're just so dominant. But they didn't put a lot of points up. And I think we all still want to see whether Gunnar Stockton is, you know, can he play at a national championship level to raise that team up to a point where they got a shot to make that run. And they'll find out up at Tennessee, find out a lot. And so that's a really good one. The other one is Florida LSU. And after this Florida debacle last week, you know, they got a chance. You're almost glad you got an opponent like LSU sitting there, because if you got any kids with any character to them at all, they're really hurting inside and want to prove something. Well, you got there and prove it against Valdosta State. You didn't prove anything. They go down to LSU and win, and they had a similar thing last year. They beat LSU right after something. What was it? They lost to somebody. Texas beat the crap out of them. And the next week, they played LSU and beat them. It started the 6-game run.
Well, let's see. They ended up – they had lost – they had a 3-game stretch. This is last year. They lost to Tennessee in overtime. They got blown out. I'm sorry. They blew out Kentucky. Then they lost to Georgia by 14. Got blown out by Texas. And then they won the last 3, beat LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. So, you know, they ended up and then beat Tulane in the bowl.
That LSU game was the one that kind of started it. So, you know, who knows? Maybe it will again. I still think it can be a really good football team, but my gosh, and of course, you know, the thing with the kid spitting on another kid on the winning drive, it just makes you scratch your head. Hell, I don't understand it. But of course, he apologized today, so everything's okay.
You know, I think that how hard is it to, and we've talked about this before, but how hard is it to block out the noise? I mean, it's going to get loud at Florida and that fan base. I mean, I've been there and lived it, and it's going to get real negative real quick.
Yeah, I mean,
since we've been there 5 years.
When you ask the question, you know, how hard is it? You don't. Okay. I don't care if it's hard or easy. There's too much media now. You know, you got social media, you got electronic media, you got print media, you got TV media, you cut on any instrument that you own on any given day and start looking at sports. And I mean, it's just constant. And we're all experts, including me and you. You know, we know everything. After the games are played, we come in and start talking about them and dissecting everybody and talking about what's wrong with them and who's going to beat who next week. But it's just going to be part of it. Now, I do think kids are more used to it now than they ever have been before. Coaches too, I guess. And to say it won't affect you, I don't know if you can say that. I mean, it affects everybody. But I don't think anybody will be rolled over in the fetal position, but they're going to have to block stuff out and focus on what they're doing. So, you know, everybody talks about pressure. The pressure after a game like that is to go back out every day and focus and get better. Put physically and mentally into a practice everything you got, because that's the only way you're going to fix it. You ain't going to be able to go out and recruit in the next 3 days. So I guess, you know, it's going to get bad, you know, just like it was at Alabama last week. So I guess the kids on that level got to be used to it by now. I mean, it's just everywhere and constant. So I don't know if that's the biggest problem you got. Now, as far as firing him, I mean, I guess there's one person and you find out what Strickland thinks. And I think you're going to see less of these impatient hires and fires going forward simply because of the money issues in college football with that.
Well, and you look around at some of these buyouts. I mean, if LSU's not good or Alabama's not good, I mean, you know, DeBoer I think's got a $60 million buyout, and Brian Kelly's is bigger than that.
Yeah,
you know,
and none of them are small. I mean, you know, there are a lot of them that are only 10 million or 11, 20 million, whatever, but they got to pay the kids 30 million, which they didn't have to pay 10 years ago. And some of these schools now, they'll talk big, but all this big money coming in the SEC from TV and all that sounds good. But when you're having to pay kids about 15 million, 20 million, and some of them are getting more than that, you know, it's not advertising it. And I'm talking about the total. I mean, it's getting to be a problem. And I don't believe it can sustain itself. So what do? I mean, you just quit paying the kids and start losing every weekend. You can't do that. I think you're going to start seeing better contracts in the front door. And I think you're going to see a little bit more patience not to fire a coach and clear out a whole staff. You know, we always talk about what the head coach makes, and it does dwarf the other coaches. But when you clean out a staff of 20 people
or more,
I mean, hell, these people now, they got 30 and 40 support and coaches together. And I mean, a lot of them hit the doors when the head man's gone, and it just piles up money on top of money. And then somebody comes in 2 weeks after you fired him and you hire somebody else, and it's been $100 million turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, we need to pay the players, you know, a little bit more money this next year, because you remember they changed that rule, and now they can be paid to play. I mean, it's getting tough, man. I don't see it continuing this way, but that's irrelevant to what we're talking about.
Well, I agree with you. I think at some point it's something's got to change. But if you look at the rest of Florida's schedule, I mean, you've got, you after this week, now you got LSU, number 3 LSU this week. Then you got number 5. You got at number 3 LSU, at number 5 Miami, number 7 Texas at home, at 16 LSU, Mississippi State, Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, number 17 Ole Miss, at 15 Tennessee, and at number 10 Florida State.
Yep.
I mean, that's after. I mean, you've almost got to. If you drop USF, which they did, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and I mean, you called them all out, and some of them really jump out at you. But you go back through it now. Mississippi State just beat the top 15 team. Now they probably won't be at the end of the season, but they beat a top 15 team. Got fined $500,000, and which is not a lot of money at most places. But at Mississippi State, they may have to call a couple of car dealers and get some money from them. But I mean, you're right. And then who's the other one is Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky, they played Ole Miss well. And I thought Ole Miss coming in, I thought they were starting to show like they were a top 5 team. And Kentucky just kind of throttled them and slowed them down. And he's done that before with Kiffin, but Stoops he has. But I think you just don't have a breather. You don't have a breather. They got 2 open dates in there, one before Texas and one before Georgia, and that'll help. But there's not an easy game on their schedule.
No, not one.
None. And they must have thought South Florida was. I mean, South Florida beat the brakes off of Boise State. Maybe Boise's down this year, but they're still a really good team, nationally competitive. And I kept glancing at the game, and I thought the score was the other way. I just assumed Boise was kicking their butts. And then finally I stopped and looked, and they beaten Boise by 30 points. And I mean, that's legit. I mean, that's a good win. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't shock me that they pulled an upset on another team. I go back, and I know it was a lot of plays in the game, and it didn't come down to this one incident. But that kid spitting on somebody and keeping a drive alive, I mean, that'll decimate a football team. You may have them stopped, and then that happens, and they get in field goal range and kick a field goal and beat you. I mean, it just – I didn't learn how to take care of that in coaching. You got all kind of things like, do you go for it on 4th down? Do you punt? Do you hit the field goal? Do you, what are we going to practice today? How long are we going to go and all that? But nobody told me you got to learn how to handle a kid that spits on other kids.
Yeah, I mean, and we had a similar situation. We played our last year at Florida. We played up at Tennessee. And if we win that game, we not only make it, we probably make it for a while. And, we end up and we have a receiver that gets a personal foul penalty at the end. Tennessee kicks a long field goal to beat us with no time left.
Yep.
And, it was brutal. And, and then, as Zook likes to say, the noise got too loud in the system. And then next thing you know, we lose to y'all over there at Starkville, and, that's all she wrote.
These kids, I mean, I don't know. And then, the other thing happened with the big defensive tackle that played at Georgia for the Eagles. Hell, he pulls it before the game starts and doesn't even get to play. What do you do as a coach? You got a 53-man roster, and one of them goes and spits on somebody. So you got a 52-man roster, coach. Sorry about that. I mean, it's just crazy. Then he doesn't even get suspended by the league, and that's because Prescott was spitting too. And they can't suspend Pretty Boy. One of our he's one of our marquee characters in the league, and he's doing it too. I don't know, man. I learned a lot of football in just a short time I was with Coach Ross as a player and a student coach. He never told me what to do if a player on your team spit on somebody.
I can't say I ever encountered that.
I don't know.
We got Arkansas at Ole Miss.
Yep, I think that's going to be a test for Ole Miss. I think they'll win, but it could be another hard game for them with it. Better be ready to play. I think the marquee game that we hadn't already talked about is Texas A&M at Notre Dame.
Yep.
If they could somehow go up there and get them a win against a top 10 team, that would maybe turn that program around. They look like they're kind of on the edge, and they still, I think, don't have a win over a real good football team. And if they could do that, I think that would be huge for them.
Yeah, it'd be a really big win for them. Going back to Ole Miss, I was looking last night. Lane Kiffin has had 10 10 or more wins in 3 of the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
At Ole Miss.
Yep.
And I think he's weird and quirky, and I've never been a huge fan, but I tell you what, you can't argue with the job he's done.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had to coach against him at different places. I mean, it's always hard. Always hard. We had a really good football team one year at South Carolina, and Tennessee's kind of banging around his 1 year there, banging along there to 6 or 7 win team. And we went up there and really felt confident about winning that game. And we got beat by more than a touchdown. I don't remember what it was, but and they were good on defense too. But he's really good at scheming things and setting stuff up and that kind of thing. I don't remember him going real fast paced back then. Now the next time I bump into him, he's at Alabama with Saban and got some talent, but he had that quarterback that, I mean, it basically had to take him and train him. I mean, he was a defensive back, I think, at one time. I can't get the kid's name right now, but there was a black kid, and he was kind of sandwiched in between 2 of their really good quarterbacks they had, and the kid won the job. And coming into our game, you know, when I was at Auburn, coming into our game, he had not thrown a pick in like 7 games. Kevin something. What was the kid's name? Kevin something, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
94. Not 2014.
I have no idea. I can't pull it.
But he's an excellent football coach. I think, you know, if I told you my major headaches would be Petrino, Spurrier, Kiffin, I mean, he's right up there. You know, with somebody you have to try to stop and defend. Very, very hard to stop.
Kevin Wilson?
No. But those, you know, Petrino and Spurrier and Kiffin, I mean, I'd put them right up there being the hardest 3, you know, coordinators or play callers to deal with.
How do you see the Auburn game playing out? I mean, what do they need to accomplish this week? Get better, stay and build confidence in the quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, keep doing what they're doing. Again, you say that South Alabama's got a decent team, better than Bowling Green or whatever. So hopefully the competition will increase, step up or whatever. And they just need to continue to execute and play well. I don't think they had a turnover, did they? Yeah, they did too. They had a fumble. But anyhow, Mateer, I think he's had 1 pick the whole 2 games or whatever, and played a lot better in the throwing game this time. They didn't need the throwing game, but they did throw it. And so now we know they can. Got a great receiver corps. So they had some balance in that thing. That's what you want to see. And then defensively, a good complete game. Get some turnovers and some quick 3 and outs and stuff. Put your offense back on the field. Yeah, they just need to get better. And that's kind of always my thing when you going along on a tough schedule in the SEC, and then you got a team that you should win double digits. You just want your football team to get better, and not just that day. You want to go out that week, and it'll tell you whether they're a mature, focused football team, if they're out there able to practice with a purpose every day, and they're getting better. And hell, they might not even notice it, but at the end of the week, if you're not a better football team than you were at the beginning of the week, you pissed away that whole week. And you might still win that game because of the opponent, but you hadn't gotten any better to get better and better each week to get through the season. So that's the thing. And a lot of it will be measured. We won't really see it on game day. It'll be what did he get done during the week. And you know, they have a really good football team, just hitting on all cylinders and getting better in every area.
How much does continuity matter? I mean, having Derek Nix there a second year, having DJ Durkin there a second year, and you know, I mean, it was pretty clear to me Freeze was not comfortable that first year. He just didn't seem to be in his element. Seems like to me now he's got some guys around him that he likes better, he trusts, and I think it's more his program now than it's been.
Yeah, he's had a lot of defensive coordinators over the years, and I think he seems to be comfortable, you know, with anybody he hires, as long as, you know, they make stops. He doesn't say you got to run the 50 defense, you got to run the split safeties, you got to run this, you got to blitz more, you got to. He just wants you to be a really good defense, and he makes hires. I mean, I guess he's had about 6 different ones since he's been a head coach. Offensively, I thought it was very important. I mean, he's another one of those that's really difficult as a play caller to defend. And when he gave up play calling early when he was at Auburn, I thought that was he had a lot on his plate, though. I mean, you've talked about it. The cupboard was bare. The recruiting had to have a lot of focus. He was probably on the phone 23 out of 24 hours recruiting, and he probably needed somebody to take the offense. But when he wasn't calling the plays and he wasn't really, devising the system and doing his thing, I don't think it was headed in the right direction. And a lot of times it was players, but the players weren't terrible, but they didn't fit what was going on the field. Now, it looks to me like he's got his hands on it. Mm-hmm. And Derek, having been his coordinator before, it's been in that mode before. I mean, he's had the coordinator who knows the system, but Hughes calling it on Saturday, or at least putting the plan together. And I think you could see a big change. And obviously it helped to get a quarterback. But, I think it's been important, very important. Not sure about recruiting. You would know better than I have, but better than I would. But, I mean, this last recruiting cycle, they had a hell of a class, both out of the portal and the high school. So apparently that part of the continuity is helping too, having a group of coaches that are staying on top of a kid 3 years in a row and able to land them,
Well, they look better to me. I mean, they look like an Auburn football team ought to look versus, I mean, I don't think people realize, we've talked about it before, people don't realize what kind of mess Harsin left it in. But I mean, the recruiting, he had a pretty good class first year, had a really good class second year, had a really good class last year. And so you stack class on top of class on top of class. I mean, I think he really feels like that they're close. I think he feels like they need one more class to get to where they need to be. But if you look at, I mean, not that ESPN picks mean anything, but from a percentage of they were going through their percentage wins or whatever the other day, they've got Auburn winning 10 games.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I said 9 before the season. If you're sitting there at 9-3, you're in the playoff. You're in the playoff conversation in the SEC. I'm not sure you get in, but you're in the conversation.
That's right. And that helps recruiting too. Helps the fan base. I mean, it just everything starts to benefit from that enthusiasm and the positive vibes around your program. And those things don't win games, but they damn sure help you win games. When your fan base, your players, everybody in the building, when things are kind of optimistic and energetic, it's just easier to come to work every day. Easier for the kids and the coaches to come to work every day. And it's a little easier to coach kids hard when things are real positive around them. And when you got to hang out your psychological psychoanalyst shingle every day, and the first thing you do is lift the kids up out of the floor before you tell them how to hit the A gap, it gets old. It gets hard. When you got things going in the right direction and everybody's positive, I mean, it doesn't win the game, but it certainly makes the environment to prepare. It makes it a hell of a lot better.
Well, I got one thing I want to talk to you about is, we talked about, and we've known each other obviously a long time, but when you were the defense coordinator there, we talked about the need for a new facility, and the need for, improvements in that area, people getting on the same page and all that. And you kept telling me, and I kept telling people on our site, look, Auburn's falling behind. And then you look at the presidential situation, look at the AD situation over the last 10 years, and it has been, one disaster after another. There's more alignment now at Auburn, it seems like to me, than there's been since Dodd was there, which is saying something. How important it is, how important is, compared to the facility you ran when you were there versus having a new facility, one of the best in the country, how important is that?
Well, it used to be real important in recruiting, but now you come in and show the kids, look at these special lights we can cut on. Or look at this projector over here. Look at this team meeting room. Look at this weight room. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. And then the dude sits down. 20 years ago, you said, "Man, this place is committed. This is where I want to play." Now they sit down and say, Coach, I enjoyed that tour, but what you going to pay me? So I'll be honest with you. I know this isn't going to be the answer you want. Facilities have become less important over the last 5 years. And I really, at Auburn, I liked the facility. I liked the location. It was convenient. We go right out on the practice field. You could go from the office to the locker room, to the weight room, to the indoor facility. And it wouldn't matter if Hurricane Joe was coming through. You didn't even know it. I mean, I love that facility, but it was getting a little bit of age on it. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the practice field, it was about to get where you couldn't run. You had to almost couldn't run certain pass plays or you'd run into a wall somewhere. That little small indoor facility they had over there, they should have took that down because it wasn't serving any purpose. And we'd have to move pass scale or scrimmages up the field a little bit so somebody didn't run into a brick wall. Those kind of things get to be important. But I liked it. I wish it was some way. I always thought they need to knock that building down and take this other land over there in some parking lot and just give us some really, really big expansive practice fields. Get everybody in the building that's not a football coach and move them to another damn building. And I'd love to stay right where we were because it was just perfect. Everything was the way it was lined up. I could see where when it was built, it was just absolutely perfect. You know, Coach Dyke, I don't know who was there. I guess it was Coach Dyke. I remember we went up to play them one time at East Carolina, and I had to stay over because Auburn's JV was going to play a junior college out of New York the next day. and I was recruiting 2 kids on that junior college thing to come to East Carolina. So I spent the night in Auburn, and then I went over the next day to the coaches' offices to get the film of the junior college thing. Mm-hmm. And just hung around with Bud and some of those guys for a little bit. I mean, they were still over there in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of places were. And I got a bad habit of going places when they got crappy facilities. And like 2 years after I leave, they build a new facility.
I've had the same experience.
Mississippi State, we were in there with all the ticket office and the AD and all them were right down the hall. And so everybody from Collins, Mississippi to Biloxi were coming over there for something, trying to, get something over there in the athletic department. And they'd wander down the hall. And I'd tell boys, y'all better lock the door. Here comes the Cracker Barrel cartel. They're going to come in here and sit down and watch film with us for an hour or two. I mean, it was just terrible. And then I leave, and they built a brand new building up on the hill. I've never seen it, but they tell me the damn thing is great. And
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, but when Coach Kroom came in, he told me, he said, something's got to be done. And they said, Coach, we've got the money, but if we go to a brand new facility, it's going to take about 6 years. If you want to just get a brand new locker room on the end of the building, and we'll get the players a really nice setup, and y'all got to stay where you were for a while. And he took that because he knew it was desperate. I mean, we had to do something. So anyhow, I got off the track. But the facility at Auburn, I haven't seen it. And I keep trying to tell somebody, tell me where it is. And somebody had me thinking it was on the end of the indoor. And somebody had me think it's over across the street down there, the softball field. I don't know,
It's directly behind the Coliseum.
Okay.
So if you pull in,
they use the same practice fields.
No, it's everything is from a convenience standpoint. I mean, you got everything there. You got
so that's all totally out of that building and facility.
Completely. That's okay. And the old building is now you got the AD and all that stuff over there. And I think you've got some Olympic sports and all that stuff. But if John Cohen had been the AD, I'm not sure that they go build $100 million facility. I'm not sure that they don't take $30 or $40 million and put it in the old facility and update it. And I don't know that 100%, but I think that, look, there was, like you say, there's some good things about the old facility. When, Dye had been the AD and the coach there, that was really kind of the first of its kind.
It was awesome. I liked it, but it needed updating and all that. But the reason I wasn't in favor of that is I don't know how you come to work every day with somebody tearing a wall down and painting over here, So that probably made that decision. Because honestly, you could have put 30 to 50 million in that building, and you'd have a Cadillac. Yeah. And a great setup as far as, again, things being attached and set up, all self-sustaining. And you should have moved some of the people out of the building and to another building administratively. But when you do that, they put you in a what do you call one of these temporary mobile homes for 18 months. And you're talking about miserable. So that was probably a big decision on, hey, we're going to go down here and build a brand new building, and y'all work right there. And when that thing's finished, we'll pack up all your stuff and we'll move down here. And of course, they waited till I left, make sure I was gone before they did it.
It's pretty amazing that Auburn has come out and look. Auburn's had 4 straight losing seasons, and been through a lot. We've talked about I think Auburn people are cautiously optimistic. And I'm sure you remember when you were there, people saying Jabba, just Auburn being Auburn. Man, it can't get out of its own way. And I like the fact that President Roberts and the AD John Cohen have embraced that. And when you see the commercials around now, when you see Auburn winning something, you see Auburn storming the field, the ad campaign is now Auburn being Auburn. And so I think that's a nice change compared to the last 10 or 15 years of dysfunction.
Well, I mean, really, the last 2 seasons, they were better than they played.
Yes.
And he was a better football coach than what was coming off the field. So, I mean, it's hard to say what the problem was, but again, I mean, I get seasons mixed up, but I mean, they're a 10-win football team one of those seasons, and they beat themselves 3 or 4 times. Just taking sacks in the red zone and can't kick the field goal now, or throwing a pick down there where you got a field goal if you take care of the ball, may even have a touchdown. You throw a dang pick, you get a stupid penalty, you turn the football over at the wrong time. Just things that mostly were self-inflicted. Mm-hmm. And so, it's the game where they threw the Hail Mary in the end zone. I mean,
it wasn't 31.
Well, the last play of the game, and you rush 3 people. I mean, I don't know. And you've been playing pretty dang good defense that whole day. Mm-hmm. And then just that play was just ugly. And it was self-inflicted. I don't care. They can talk about that. Alabama can call it whatever they want to call it. They had some nickname for it or something. It was a good play. It was a smart thing to try to do. But if you rush 5 people and put everybody else on the goal line, the play ain't gonna work. Mm-hmm. And it's just and I don't mean it's just a call you want back, right after you make it.
Yeah, it was. I've been to my she's 13 now, but she was 11 at that point in time, and I think she'd rather go to an Auburn football game than have Christmas. And we're up there in the stands with her, and I shoot, you'd have thought somebody shot the dog. I mean,
I'm glad I don't have to take mine to games. I can't stand to go in these stadiums. Whew.
It had been before we moved back here, and before I had kids, it had been. I mean, I can't tell you how long it'd been since I sat in the stands. I like to be down on the sideline. I usually get a field pass or something, go down there. But since I've had since we moved back here the last 4 or 5 years, and I've had a chance to take the kids, they really, they really enjoyed it. Especially
I know they love it. But I tell you, man, it was had that 40-something year career, and either had headphones on and never noticed it, or up in the press box or whatever. My youngest comes along, and he's a pretty good player, and had full scholarship, et cetera, or whatever. He told me he wanted to walk on with Carolina or Clemson, and I said, my wallet about fell out of my pants. But anyhow, and he's doing really good. But we go to the first game at Carolina. He's invited as a prospect, and we walk around down there before the game. Some of the old players there, everything's good. They put you up there in the corner. The recruits get the worst damn seats in the whole stadium everywhere you go. And we're sitting there, and the team runs out. And all of a sudden, it's like, pow! And I was like, holy shit, I can't sit here 3 hours. I can't do this. And we left at halftime. I texted the coaches. I said, we're going to try to beat the traffic. The noise, and I've been told, Freddie Kitchens told me that Williams-Brice is the loudest stadium he ever tried to play quarterback. It's a loud place. I don't know whether it's something about the design or the acoustics or something. I don't know. But it's loud as any stadium in the SEC. And when that thing first hit in my ears, and I'm like, how in the hell do people do this? I mean, they got to be just crazy to sit up in that stuff and look forward to it and enjoy it. No wonder they get drunk at the tailgate before they go in. Good gosh. And so the next one, we go up and visit Clemson, and it was just about as bad. But we were back over I don't know, we were kind of located, and the opponent wasn't very good, so it wasn't as big a crowd. But I told him, I said, look, you need to hurry up and make up your mind, or you come to the next ones by yourself. We finally went back up there for the Carolina-Clemson game at Clemson. And I right before we go up into the stands, we're down in a little recruiting host room. And I said, Charlie, you've been up there, you know where the seats are. I said, I ain't going up there today. I'm going to watch it on that TV right there. And I sat down there. And the bad part about it it wasn't like a regular TV broadcast. It was the closed circuit TV, the stadium has. And it's about a 25 or 30 second delay. So I'd hear, and then I'd be watching it, and hell, I don't know what's going to be, but I know it's going to be big. And then the play would come on, and I got so tired of watching it. But I don't know how people do it, Ronnie.
I'll tell you,
there are people who will hear this and say, well, you son of a bitch, you made a lot of money doing that. You better be glad we came.
Hey, 2 years ago, I took the one I was down at my little one. I took her to the Georgia game, and behind us there were some Georgia fans, and they started barking, and she said, "What are they doing?" I said, they're barking. She said, that's obnoxious. And why are they barking? I said, well, they're bulldogs.
That's another one. I mean, at least in the recruiting thing, you're sitting around a bunch of families that, invited there for recruits. That's another thing. You get up in the stands and all of a sudden you're sitting beside some dude pulling for the other team. Mm-hmm. And it's going to end up not going well.
I remember one year I guess it was Jimbo and I had left LSU and he was still down there and they were playing, I think it was Tennessee for the SEC championship. And James Carville was sitting right in front of me. Oh, God. And he seemed to be having a good time. I'll leave it at that.
Well, don't get me started. This was an athletic show. We don't want to talk about Carville.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Good to be with you again.
Yeah, man. We've got some really good games on the horizon. It's going to be fun to see how this thing unwinds. But I think both Auburn and Alabama are getting ready to hit a stretch, and we're going to find out how good they are.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.
Sounds great.